Can you confirm if I'm recording or not?
Yes, you're recording.
Great. All right. Well, welcome everyone. Sorry for the short delay here, but my name is Jason Hivitz. I'm a captain for the Open Rally Brigade. I'm also one of your National Advisory Council members, and tonight I'd like to host a workshop to talk through brigade action teams. And we've had a couple of iterations of this, and I think the next rev is going to be a winner here. So let's get started. I'll just let's see, next slide. Veronica and Tom, are there any housekeeping items that we should take care of up front while we have people's attention?
No, if you want to do everyone to kind of say who they are, that's perfectly up to you. And then just I would make sure to remember that attendees are still joining, so you'll need to keep on promoting them.
Got it.
And
all right.
To avoid you having to do that, so sorry.
All good. All right, so let's see. I don't know if you're going to be able to see my Zoom when I do this, so we're going to make sure. How about we start? So, Ron, can you help me, since I can't see the whole the entire folks? Can you just pick a person and have them introduce themselves?
Sure.
And just basically say your name and what brigade you're from, and maybe why you're interested in brigade action teams.
Awesome. Jill, I'll start with you.
Hey everyone, my name is Jill Pierce. I am one of the captains at Open Charlotte Brigade, and also a National Advisory Council member who's serving as the chair this year. And so obviously, like, the thing that we've been trying to do since the beginning of time is figure out distributive workflow, and that's pretty much what a brigade action team does. So there's my interest.
Awesome, thanks. Andrew, we have you up next.
Hey everyone, I'm Andrew Anatoli, also from Open Charlotte, one of our leadership team members, and I like to focus a lot on engaging volunteers and organizing projects and teams and whatnot. So presentations about organizing projects and teams are right up my alley. So, woo.
Great, thanks, Andrew. Let's see, Michael Bishop, you're up next.
Hi. Excuse me, Michael Bishop, code for Tampa Bay, and my interest in this is how we can leverage it with the hurricane response work that we've done and moving that forward.
Awesome, thank you. Eric, you're up next.
Hi everyone, I am part of the team for Open Twin Cities here in Minneapolis and St. Paul, Minnesota. Formerly Bill Bushy did a lot of work for us, if any of you are familiar with him. So I'm just here standing in for my partner, Allison Link, to try to figure out what this is all about.
Wonderful, thanks. Chris Matthews, you're up next.
Hey, I'm Chris Matthews with the Open Rally Brigade, and I'm also really interested in distributed work among different brigades. So.
Wonderful, thank you. Annie, we have you up next.
Hi, my name is Annie. I work with the Code for San Jose group, a recently appointed co-captain, and we have a couple projects that we'd like to extend to different cities. So I think the action team would be right up our alley.
Cool, thanks, Annie. Cyrus, I have you on deck.
Hey, I'm Cyrus Safna. I'm with Code for DC, and just generally excited to hang with cool peeps and learn about brigade action teams.
Great, thank you. Ian, I have you up next.
I'm Ian Henshaw, one of the brigade captains with Code for Carry.
Any particular reason you're interested in?
Oh yes. Just interested in finding out how to participate and how to work with the new structure.
Nice. Perfect. David, I have you up next.
Hi, I'm David Ginsberg, here with Open Data Delaware, and I'm joining to learn a little bit more about how brigade action teams work and the kinds of projects they work on.
Cool. Pam?
Hey, this is Pamela Wood Brown in Greenville, Code for Greenville, South Carolina. One of the brigade captains, and I'm just really interested in learning more about the action teams and anything connecting across to other brigades across the country. Thanks.
Thanks. Kevin Curry.
Hey, this is Kevin Curry in Virginia Beach, Code for Hampton Roads. And yeah, I'm here pretty much to learn. Definitely interested in maybe applying this to emergency response and shelter tracking.
Great, thank you. Mohit, I have you up next.
Hey, I'm Mohit, and I am from St. Louis, and I'm just generally interested in what we can do to help the overall nation.
Thanks. Hey, Luigi, I have you up next.
Hey, I'm Luigi from Atlanta, Code for Atlanta. I'm interested in how brigade action teams could help work towards solutions for like network-wide collaboration opportunities. So not just projects, but like tackling other things where we think we can help strengthen the network.
Great, thank you. Hey, Tim, I have you up next.
Hi, Tim, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm Tim Eccleston, Code for Nashville, and interested in how we could use this for immigrant power of attorney, which was presented at Brigade Congress. We're about to be able to roll it out nationally, but obviously it would require people from all over the country to collaborate with.
Awesome, thank you. Dean Sofer.
Hi, I'm Dean Sofer, new member with the core team at San Francisco. Just want to learn more about the whole thing.
Thanks. And Will, I have you up next. Will Scora. Okay. And I guess the network team, we can introduce ourselves real quick. My name is Veronica Young, and I'm a program manager here on the network team. Tom, you want to go next?
I'm Tom. I'm the developer evangelist on the network team.
And Meredith.
Hey everybody, I'm the new director of the network at CFA. Really excited to be here, and thank you all so much for joining tonight. I'm also very eager to explore how we can help facilitate some cross-brigade projects and some problem solving, and what you could use from the network and CFA to help do that. So excited for tonight's discussion.
Thanks. Jason, I think that's everyone.
Sounds great. Well, first of all, thanks everyone for your time tonight. I know there's a lot of other things you could be doing on I guess it's a Monday night before the holidays. So I'm going to not to talk too much, but I do want to give some background on kind of where we're at with kind of version 1 of Brigade Action Teams. And so our agenda for this evening, link to the original Brigade Action Team README. And then we've got some collaborative meeting notes happening as well. And I can ask maybe Veronica or Tom to redrop those into the chat if people want to access those. So we'll do a quick overview, and then I've got some ideas that I want to propose to the framework, and then lead right into some discussion. I proposed a couple of discussion questions in the invitation. And really, at the end of this, what I'd like to do is we can collect some information about who would like to help me revise the Brigade Action Teams and get some more feedback and drill down, get the next version. And then, it sounds like some other folks are interested in actually maybe helping us pilot that with some of their projects. And so really would like to get those kind of two groups figured out so that we can hit 2019 going fast. So what is a Brigade Action Team? According to the current README file, it's basically kind of how proposing how members from different brigades can work together across brigades. And really, I think one of the most appealing parts of this is if you have someone that walks in new to your brigade meetup, and there's not a project of particular interest to them for that that evening or that time frame, that this gives them an option to contribute to something nationally. And in my head, this is very much like how an open source project works, and except it's just more civic tech focused, and we actually have brigades all across the U.S. and the world who could participate with that. So I will say that the Brigade Action Team framework is not perfect, and it could definitely use some work. Here's a couple of my thoughts on where we can improve it. I think it's a little too prescriptive. It's probably a little bit too heavy of a lift for someone just to kind of pick it up and read it. And I've been thinking about a way to allow folks to prototype a Brigade Action Team before, maybe setting up all the infrastructure. And then there's a whole section in there on the README about doing a lightweight bat. We could call it something else. That's just kind of the words that I used. So I think we definitely want to leverage that. And when this framework was developed, we didn't have discourse at the time. And I think discourse could be a really powerful tool in helping us do some discovery around potential projects, to find out who's interested in working on them, etc. And then, of course, we can have some discussion around what your ideas are. So for folks that have gone through the framework, what do you think it can be improved? And if you want me to talk more, I can. So I've just got a few more slides.
Jason, was that a question for the group?
Yeah, I think anyone can chime in. So, well, let me start with this. In general, do folks kind of agree that these proposed changes would improve the framework?
Are there enough people here with a basic understanding about it to begin with?
I honestly don't know what you're talking about with changes to framework. So maybe that would be a place to start.
I'm also a bit lost.
No worries. There was a document sent out with the invite that has the framework in it. So with that said, I will give a very high-level overview of what that document does. It basically defines what a Brigade Action Team is.
Jason?
Yeah?
I read that document, but how is that a change to a framework? Like, I didn't realize there was a framework to begin with. So are there two versions that we're looking at the difference? Okay.
That README is the framework.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so there's a brand new framework.
No, there's not. We want the point of this question is that I'd like to start making revisions to that framework to improve it and to make it easier. I think it's a little bit too of a heavy lift right now, and I think we've got some momentum around. Definitely want to take an opportunity to make some improvements before we kind of open it up to the masses, so to speak.
I just added the framework into the chat if folks want to look at it. I guess another question too could be kind of what do folks see as the easiest way to start cross-collaborating, and then we could see whether we could make those adjustments into the framework.
Yeah. So I'm gonna pause on this question and let's see what else I have, and then maybe this will help. This will help maybe start the conversation. So a couple of folks in North Carolina got together this past weekend, and we had a great in-person meeting. And one of the topics we discussed was Crossbreed Collaboration, and is very timely for this workshop tonight. And we kind of came up with a couple things that I'm totally stealing and borrowing, and going to use it to apply to the Brigade Action Teams. And so, what we kind of came up with was, what do we need around a common infrastructure? And we basically kind of said, look, we've got to have communication channels, and that's both real time and asynchronous. We've got to have places to work collaboratively online, and some type of shared calendar so that people who want to participate can know when the next opportunity to meet, quote, in person or online would be. The next set of things that we talked about was what's kind of like the bare minimum that we would need in order for a project to get off the ground. And it's really just kind of defining what the project is, what success would look like, a brief timeline of how you want to move the project along. And for us, we were thinking in the context of build with, not for, is this was kind of specific to our brigades, but having some sort of partner organization that you would work with. This may not apply directly to the BAT framework, but wanted to include it in here just for thoughts. And then the last thing, we were thinking about this started out as project roles, but we figured out that it's actually just kind of different tasks that need to happen throughout the project. And all these different tasks could actually be owned by one person in the beginning, where you're both the project champion, and if this was a brigade specific project, the brigade champion. But over time, these roles could evolve and change, where maybe you just don't have the bandwidth to be the project champion anymore, and that becomes someone else, or you're having multiple people contribute code to the project, and maybe one of them is going to be the main maintainer, just to kind of spread out that work. So I think adding some of these type of components into that README file to the framework could be definitely enhance it. And apologize for the typos. I put these together in like 30 minutes ago. So I am going to skip over to this question because I think this is where we're at. But I know there's some folks that had ideas on what would make good brigade action teams. So I'd like to hear from everyone. I just threw knowledge sharing and emergency management on here. What are some other areas that we think the brigade network would be interested in having brigade action teams?
I'm going to jump in because I got a question. I'm brand new to the San Francisco team, and it looks like there was some recent turnover. So for me, onboarding, documentation, organization have been a major concern. And one of the first things I jumped in on when I said is asked about his communication with other brigades, and I was surprised to find there's another Slack, which was Code for America, and there's already Slack channels for cross communication. But everybody on our team's super swamped. Like, we barely have the bandwidth to run our own team. And this sounds like a whole nother team and a whole nother thing. And one thing I was wondering about is what, and I realize this might be my own naivete or newness to a core team membership, but shouldn't all the core team members be communicating across all the brigades? And shouldn't we just have sort of process or procedure where when new projects are proposed at any brigade, they're checked against a directory listing across all brigades? Like, shouldn't that just be kind of systems we're all sharing? I saw there was some past effort around Brigade Hub, and then I looked at recent surveys and nobody uses Brigade Hub anymore. And an index of up-to-date projects seems to be constantly running out. So it's just like, having more people have more roles and more responsibilities at my brigade, we don't have the bandwidth for that. I'm still struggling to make sure our own brigade is kind of running smoothly and keeping organized. And I'd love to have a cross-team effort, but I kind of want it to be part of the responsibilities of the normal brigade core team that is alleviated by multiple teams kind of managing or organizing in one place. Not have a separate effort distinctive of like how my own core teams run too much, but that might also be something that has been attempted before and just didn't work. Like, again, I'm completely new to running a core brigade.
Kevin, did you want to respond?
Yeah. So hopefully the background noise is not too bad for you guys. So I think maybe rolling back and starting with some basic understanding for everyone about what are brigade action teams for and what's a really good scenario of where you might want one. So I don't think anyone's trying to create a structure to impose on somebody. It's more like something happens recurringly in the network, and how can we make it repetitive to form action around that thing, right? So for us in the last webinar, it was about shelter tracking. And so I'm wanting to know who in the network is doing shelter tracking, what are the projects that are involved in shelter tracking. And then I saw in the framework document that you put out, Jason, there are all these, sort of setup things. And a lot of those like sort of already exist, and you're just trying to find where to plug into them. So I kind of think, one, what are they for? Why do we need them? And two, like, what is it we're trying to do? Like, we're trying to make sort of like an easy to plug into repeatable thing around a topic. Because that's what I do. I go into Slack and I'm like, hey, who are all my housing security people? I'm working on housing security, but that's just topical. That's just discussion. But in Hurricane API, we're actually working on a project. And isn't that just the de facto Brigade action team? So end of discussion.
Yeah, I would agree. And the framework was kind of designed with the intent of, these are the tools that Code for America Network already uses. So it was just kind of saying, like, giving some best practices around, if you want to work together, here are the options that you have, as opposed to going and setting up your own separate Slack channel somewhere else, right? We already have that, like on a different Slack, then we already have it through the Code for America Network.
Yeah, I just say it seems like, and especially after Congress, right? So it's, who are all the people working on CourtBot, or who are interested in CourtBot, and how can they participate in CourtBot, either helping the folks in Tulsa or bringing it to where they live or anything like that. And it's just like, who are all the people who are interested in, it was Tim with the immigration power of attorney. Like, how that to me is like, let's make a Brigade action team around that, because lots of people want to do it.
Yeah. And I think, I would love for a couple folks to help me look through the framework and simplify it so that it's not a heavy lift, and that we can actually accomplish, kind of have the network self-serve, right? But have it be repeatable.
I would also add that I think this is something the network team can help with and help support, and is really interested to figure out what that could look like. I do think, and I take your point, Dean, that folks are super busy and there's a lot going on, but I do think us collectively solving this challenge is crucial to some inclusivity and accessibility of the work in the network, because there's all kinds of folks who might not be able to turn up to an in-person meetup every week, but have something to offer. And I think us being able to identify projects that can exist online, that can exist across brigades, is really essential to us inviting more folks in to join the movement. So I just wanted to add a couple notes on that, and that's something we want to help figure out too.
I think a core concern that it does also alleviate too is, this is trying to take the pressure of managing those cross-brigade teams, as well as managing more projects and what's going on, away from core leadership, and really letting the, like, giving a framework and a platform for members to come in and realize that there's already all this structure in place, so they can take that role away from you and just dive right into a project without having to help guide them or anything. So if anything, it should make Brigade leadership's lives a little easier, I imagine.
I might put Tom on the spot, but I think there were some kind of infrastructure questions there and communication. Did you want to address any of that? And Tom, you're still muted.
Awesome. Being in the same room makes it challenging. Cool. So yeah, generally, I think I'm happy to sort of hear from you guys, sort of what kind of communication would work well for this. I think it is a challenge, and I think trying to get as many people standardized on the same platforms of Slack and Discourse and email, or whatever our current communication is a good way to go. I think I did kind of want to add to this a little bit, to the discussion, that I think potentially setting up, like, creating a space where we can have sort of video calls, people meeting in a situation sort of like this, but around a certain topic. And then that's sort of being organically arranged by the network. That might be a good like prototype or like a pilot version of a bat, maybe before the whole proposal happens, or maybe there's some kind of pointed sort of development process for a bat, in terms of like figuring out sort of exactly the angle of attack. Maybe there's some sort of expected life cycle that we can try to sort of can kind of promote out. Just in general, it feels like, and like my perception of the BAT framework as sort of a brigade leader is it's a lot to read, and sort of internalize the need for. Like, I think, like to Kevin's point, Kevin and Jason, you guys have a ton of context on the way that the brigade network has already operated, but someone coming in like Dean or like our new brigade leaders at Open Oakland will be replacing me this week. New brigade leaders, they don't have all that context and they don't see why else. So, Zachary, can you mute? I think there's some noise coming through there. So just in general, I don't know, that was kind of a wandering answer. Is there anything in specific that would be helpful in terms of communication that could be, that I think that you were thinking of, Jason, or do you think that we should do some like need finding?
Yeah, I mean, I think most of it could probably go, it's happening naturally right now through Discourse and Slack. And I love your idea of kind of the video connection, because what Kevin hosted a couple of weeks ago, it was basically kind of like a discovery of like, hey, I want to talk about this topic. Who's interested? And let's have a conversation around it. I think that's probably the best way for these types of things to happen. They're recorded, so anyone who misses it can go get that context when they need to. And I think the whole intention of the Brigade Action Team is to, like Kevin said, is have something repeatable and have some commonality across it, so that when we do have new members coming in and they want to look for a project, they have a common place where they can go do that. And then most importantly, a place that's updated. So there are a couple thoughts in there around, I think you mentioned checkpoints, where I'm going to call it a baby bat, but it's kind of maybe it's a bat that's in incubation, where it's proposed and they're still doing some discovery, and there's just some other things that need to happen before they reach the first milestone. Kevin.
So I'd like to, I really just kind of keyed in when Tim said, I'm here for immigration power of attorney. And I was like, that's a user, right? So I kind of want to hear maybe from Tim, like, if you don't mind, what do you think as a user? Because I imagine you like, hey, we're working on this and we need help around the country. And so how do we organize around that? Am I right?
I think I'm in a different position than maybe most of the users, which is we have a project like built and we're more rolling it out and it would need to be customized. People would have to talk to lawyers that specialize in their states to roll it out. So, but I think but even then, the majority of the users are actually going to be people who didn't build it and are like, how do I do this? What do I need to change for my state? Why is everything broken?
And the bat does that.
Yeah, that's what I'd be hoping is that. So I don't know if I can represent, the 49 other brigades or whatever that might ultimately participate in what their experience would be like, but having a default place and best practices hopefully would make it better for them.
Any other needs that you would anticipate in order to, or kind of like in your mind, like what are the next few steps in order to get that going off the ground? Would you see need to happen?
Well, I don't know if you're not talking about the specific project, but you're just talking about like the BAT framework.
No, I'm actually specific to your project. Like what were the next steps you would take if you were to take it kind of more?
Well, then use our project, we're close to like being able to roll out. The barrier is we'd like to get Tennessee's immigration coalition on board with our form. and so we're going to kind of merge with their form, and educate them that our app is the user's data does not leave the client side ever. It never goes back to the server, because right now they're educating a lot of people that don't use any digital tools for this, because ultimately the government could access it, or other people could access really sensitive data. So that's our next step, is to, if we get the sort of big player in Tennessee, the big nonprofit player, to work with our form, then I think that will give kind of the visibility and recommendation to work with other states on it.
Got it. Thanks for sharing. It looks like there's a question/comment in the group chat around having a unified index of projects. Tom and I experimented with that, and we have kind of a listing on GitHub, but I don't know if that's the best place, because I foresee that there could be some projects that won't be using code. They may be more not code, basically. So I don't know. I think we'd have to, maybe staff would have to help out to help us identify if that's a possibility. And but I think to answer the question, I think we do need to have a common place where people can learn about which bats are active.
Yeah, I was just going to say the same thing, that it doesn't necessarily need to be every project that brigades are working on, but definitely there should be a way that people can find out what sort of efforts are taking place on the national level that they can plug into, like the immigration work or something like that, if they're interested.
Great. Other thoughts, feedback, questions, use cases?
Yeah, I had a question about when you were talking about what's it called? Like how we could like point new members to these projects. And I wanted to clarify something, is that every time we have new members and we kind of have we give them like a list of projects that we're already working on, and we're like, here's like 3 projects, you can choose whatever. And I feel like a lot of people, when they come in and we give them that option, they kind of just get confused, because they're like, we're here, we don't know necessarily what priorities are, what anything is. So it's like, I feel like it confuses them more. So do you think that this could also benefit more, I guess, long-time members who maybe want to move away from one of the projects and work on something else?
I definitely think that that's a possibility. I think it just gives it would give more options for people to work on projects that maybe better match their skill set. So one of the things that our the Open Rally Brigade is trying to do is Chris, I, and other leaders are trying to get better at finding out what skills the new members have, and trying to make that list a little bit shorter for them, so it's not overwhelming. So if you have someone like, you don't want to send someone to a project that doesn't know Python if the project's in Python. So I think, I think overall it would just give more options for people to put their skills to the right project and also to work on projects that they're interested in. Because I think that's what we see a lot, is someone will come in, if there's not a project that's kind of not in their passion zone, then they're just like, all right, I'm not going to come back, or I'm just going to wait for another project.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I just want to hop in too and say that I think that it's important to kind of tailor it to your brigade and how you use this, because in your case it might be overwhelming for folks to kind of present it on the first day of like, there's a million different things you can work on. But I think I see it more as an option for a heightened level of interest from folks. There are so many people that are part of the network and doing really great work and want to kind of go to the next step of being able to collaborate with other brigades. But I don't think it's a one-size-fits-all strategy. I think whatever would work best for your brigade is how you should move forward.
Okay, yeah, I get that.
While I have everyone, is there anyone interested in raising their hand to help me do the next revision of the framework to simplify it and make it easier.
What's your time frame looking like? How quickly are you trying to implement this and launch?
That's a great question. I think we're flexible. I know that NAC elections are coming up, so I want to be sensitive to that because that would be some attention going there. I don't want to detract from that. I'd like to say that probably by the end of March, have a next draft out for feedback. Maybe a little bit sooner than that, depending on how quickly we can work. But really what I'm envisioning is a couple of working sessions like this. We probably not as many people. I love all you people, but just a small working group so that we can make some progress, and then we can start getting feedback from the network.
Yeah, I would be interested.
I think I saw Kevin, you raised your hand too. Yep. What was the last person?
Annie.
Annie, got it. Thank you. That's a group of 4. If anyone else is interested, let me know. I'll let you sleep on it, or let you have some rest over it. But I'll at least get you 4 together, us 4 together, and we'll start working on this and chipping away. Are there any other thoughts or things that people want to share?
Yeah, I was wondering, so the hurricane response, first it was kind of a moving project, right? First it was Harvey, then Irma, then Florence. And that brought a lot of people, obviously, in a very short period of time to work on a project. Is there anything from that, I guess, 3 different iterations of that project that can be distilled on how to, help all those different brigades or people from different brigades in different areas work together on the common project?
Yeah, I think that's a great option to pilot this framework with. And hopefully before next hurricane season, this would be definitely a goal that we want to do. And I think that's why, Kevin hosted his session last time, just to start gathering interest. And, I think there's probably pieces of that team that are kind of already out there, and, just using the BAT framework to kind of quote formalize and standardize some of those teams basically.
One suggestion, excuse me, interrupt. One suggestion in the general was maybe to give space at Summit and/or Congress to these teams so that there's not really an opportunity to meet in person other times of the year. But if we're potentially all going to be in the same place, there's an opportunity that's planned, like, hey, we're going to be, there's a 2-hour window that we're just meeting this group that's set aside in a space that we can all get stuff accomplished, basically.
Yeah, see, Kevin's mentioning birds of a feather sessions. I would also, from my historical memory, we used to actually have a hackathon, a hack space at some of the events. I think we've kind of gone away from that a little bit, but I think if we're successful with this, that would be a great addition to the events if the team is able to get the space. And I think the biggest piece around that is there is a lot of preparation that goes into being, hey, you've got people in person, but you've got to also prepare in advance to make that time in person as valuable as possible.
I would just add that the call for proposals for Summit has gone live, and I think this would make a fantastic proposal to submit for Summit. So if those of you who have been involved in that work are interested, I would definitely recommend that you submit. I'll chat the link here in the Zoom chat as well as in the Slack channel. I would echo Jason that it is pretty labor intensive, so just be aware of that going in to do a summit or a breakout at Summit. But there's certainly multiple venues in which we could help facilitate some knowledge sharing on this, whether it's at Brigade Day at Summit or Brigade Congress, as you mentioned. But just wanted to flag the call for proposals at Summit is now live if anyone wants to submit on this or anything else.
Great. Well, unless there are any other questions or discussion topics, I'm okay to wrap it up and give everyone back some time to their evening. Last call for questions or discussion. All right, let's see. I actually, I did have one more slide So I'm going to see if I can share my screen again. And let's see. 2019 will be the year of the bat. If I can get rid of my chat. There we go. How about that? Is everyone okay with that?
Go back and
Very
check
nice.
out your scenario slide, and I put a bunch in there.
Cool. Sweet, man. Thanks, Kevin. Thank you all for joining. Thanks to the network team for support and giving me the host powers for a while. And I think I was keeping an eye on the participant link, so I kept adding folks throughout. So again, thanks for your time, and have everyone get some rest over the holidays, and we'll get this going in 2019. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Happy holidays, everyone. Bye.
Happy holidays. Happy holidays. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.